The impossible mission that actually worked in WWII. The fog of early morning hung thick over the European countryside. It wasn't just weather that cloaked the terrain in mystery and danger. It was the uncertainty of war, the kind that gnaws at soldiers' nerves and keeps commanders awake at night. In the annals of World War II, countless operations were planned, executed, and either celebrated or forgot. But some missions were so daring, so improbable, that they border on the impossible. And among these, one operation stands out not for its fame, but for its sheer audacity, its precision, and the courage of the men who made it succeed against every conceivable odds. Imagine being handed a task so dangerous that even seasoned officers question whether it can be done. Picture yourself walking into enemy territory, knowing a single mistake could mean capture, torture, or death. Yet despite the overwhelming risk, the mission is not optional. Its success could tilt the balance of a critical campaign and save thousands of lives. This is the story of the mission that seemed impossible and how it actually worked. It began in the early months of 1944. As the Allies prepared for the crucial push into Nazi-occupied Europe, intelligence had uncovered a series of heavily fortified supply lines, communication hubs, and logistical strongpoints that, if destroyed, could cripple the enemy's ability to respond effectively to the upcoming invasion. The problem: these targets were located deep behind enemy lines, protected by well-trained soldiers, minefields, and an intricate web of observation posts. Conventional bombing would be too risky, and a frontal assault was unthinkable. Command needed someone who could think like the enemy, move like a ghost, and strike with surgical precision. Enter Lieutenant Colonel James "Jimmy" Harlan, a man whose reputation in covert operations was already legendary among Allied intelligence circles. He was a master strategist, trained in the art of improvisation, and had a reputation for thinking 3 steps ahead. To him, the impossible wasn't something to fear, it was an invitation to outsmart the odds. Harlan's team was small but elite, composed of men who shared his calm under pressure and unwavering focus. Each soldier knew that their lives were secondary to the success of the operation. The plan was audacious. Harlan and his team would infiltrate enemy territory under the cover of darkness, bypassing miles of patrols and avoiding the very infrastructure meant to detect intruders. They would then plant explosives at key points along the supply network, disrupt communication lines, and extract without leaving a trace. Every element of the operation had to be executed flawlessly. A single misstep could compromise the mission and their lives. Preparation was meticulous. For weeks, the team studied maps, analyzed reconnaissance photos, and rehearsed their movements. They trained in the dead of night, simulating enemy patrols and practicing rapid demolitions. The psychological strain was immense. Each man knew the probability of survival was slim, yet their sense of duty, loyalty, and belief in the mission kept them focused. They were soldiers in the purest sense, brave, disciplined, and willing to face death for a cause greater than themselves. The night of the mission arrived. Under the cloak of darkness, Harlan led his team through dense forests, over treacherous ridges, and along enemy supply routes. Every step required precision, every sound could betray their presence. They moved silently, communicating through hand signals and whispers. Hours stretched into a tense eternity as they navigated the labyrinth of enemy defenses, each obstacle testing their endurance and resolve. By the time they reached their first target, the team was exhausted but undeterred. They set explosives with meticulous care, ensuring each charge would maximize disruption while minimizing risk to civilians in nearby villages. Harlan's experience in combat and reconnaissance was critical here. He knew exactly how to place the charges, how to time the detonations, and how to create confusion among the enemy forces. Each successful placement brought them closer to completing the mission and closer to potential disaster. Then came the moment of truth. As the first charges detonated, the enemy was thrown into chaos. Supply lines were severed, communication networks disrupted, and panic spread among the ranks. Harlan's team, however, was already moving to the next target, undeterred by the explosions around them. The precision of their operation ensured that they remained largely invisible. While enemy soldiers scrambled, they were ghosts slipping through the night, leaving destruction in their wake without being caught. Yet the danger was far from over. On multiple occasions, they had to improvise on the spot, dodging patrols, hiding in narrow ravines, and navigating unfamiliar terrain. The tension was unbearable. But it was also a testament to the skill and bravery of the men involved. Every decision had to be calculated. Hesitation could mean death. And still, they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that failure was not an option. By dawn, the mission had achieved what seemed impossible. Supply depots were destroyed, communication lines severed, and key strategic points were neutralized, all without a single casualty among Harlan's team. When Allied forces launched their next offensive, the enemy was disoriented and unable to respond effectively, directly contributing to the success of the campaign. The mission became a textbook example of precision, courage, and the power of small, elite units in modern warfare. The aftermath of the mission was quiet but profound. Harlan and his men returned to their units as unsung heroes. There were no parades, no public accolades, and very few records of their operation, because in the world of covert warfare, success is often measured by invisibility. Yet the impact of their actions rippled across the battlefield, saving countless lives and altering the course of a pivotal campaign. This was a mission that proved that with planning, courage, and ingenuity, even the impossible could be achieved. It's important to pause here and reflect on the human element of this operation. While strategies, explosives, and logistics were crucial, the heart of the mission was the men themselves. Their courage under pressure, their unwavering commitment, and their ability to act decisively in the face of danger are what made the operation possible. History often celebrates large-scale battles and famous generals, but it is these quiet, extraordinary acts of bravery that truly shape the outcome of war. As you think about this story, consider the contrasts. Ordinary men placed in extraordinary circumstances, facing overwhelming odds, yet achieving what no one thought possible. It's a reminder that heroism isn't always visible on the battlefield. Sometimes it is measured in the precision of a plan, the courage of a small team, and the determination to see a mission through to the end. As the sun began to rise, casting pale light over the European countryside, Lieutenant Colonel Harlan's team found themselves in a fleeting moment of quiet. The forest around them was eerily still, the silence a sharp contrast to the chaos they had unleashed overnight. Every man knew that the success of the mission so far was nothing more than a temporary reprieve. The enemy, though disoriented, would soon regroup, and the men still had miles to traverse before they could safely return to Allied lines. This was the nature of a mission labeled impossible. Even victory demanded unwavering focus and relentless discipline. Harlan took a moment to survey his team. Each man carried the physical and mental marks of their nocturnal campaign. Exhaustion etched into their faces, clothes stained with mud and sweat, and hands calloused from handling explosives under impossible conditions. But their eyes held something that no fatigue could obscure: determination. They understood that history often remembers the grand gestures of war, but the quiet courage of men operating in the shadows could turn the tide of entire battles. The planning of this mission had been an exercise in precision and creativity. Weeks before the operation, Harlan had gathered intelligence from multiple sources: aerial reconnaissance, intercepted communications, local resistance reports, and even civilian observations. Every piece of information was scrutinized, cross-referenced, and turned into actionable intelligence. The men studied maps, terrain elevations, and patrol patterns for days, memorizing paths, escape routes, and potential ambush points. This level of preparation was what separated an impossible mission from a suicidal gamble. Each soldier had a specific role. There was Sergeant Callahan, the demolitions expert, whose calm hands could place a charge with deadly accuracy even under fire. Private Reynolds, the scout, could move ahead undetected, identifying threats before they reached the main team. Corporal Martinez was the communications liaison, ensuring that Harlan could coordinate with Allied units if the mission required rapid changes. Every member was indispensable, and the operation's success depended on perfect coordination. The first hours of the night had been the most critical. Moving under darkness was one challenge. Moving silently in enemy territory was another entirely. Harlan's team had to avoid detection while maintaining speed, a balance that required instinct, experience, and nerves of steel. One misstep, a snapped branch, a dropped tool, a whispered command could alert enemy patrols. And in that forest, with shadows stretching long and shapes blending into the night, every sound seemed amplified. It was during this tense march that the human aspect of the mission became clear. Harlan knew that while strategies and plans would be meticulously crafted, it was the men's ability to adapt in real time that would determine their fate. Trolls appeared unexpectedly. Sentries moved in patterns that differed from intelligence reports, and yet each obstacle was met with improvisation. The soldiers communicated silently, using hand signals, subtle gestures, and prearranged cues that ensured they remained unseen. These moments, invisible to the outside world, were where true heroism lived. As they reached the first target, the team had to confront another challenge: timing. The explosives needed to be synchronized not just with each other, but with the larger operational goals of Allied forces. Too early and the impact would be wasted. Too late and the enemy might detect the operation before it could create meaningful disruption. Sergeant Callahan set the charges with the precision of a surgeon, and Harlan double-checked every sequence. It was a reminder that in war, success often hinges on minute details, executed flawlessly under extreme pressure. Then came the moment that could have undone the entire operation. A patrol unexpectedly approached their location, closer than any reconnaissance had predicted. The team froze, every man aware that a single movement could mean death. Harlan, ever the calm strategist, assessed the situation in seconds. They could retreat and risk losing valuable time, or they could lie in wait, trusting their camouflage and discipline. The decision was made instantly, and the team pressed into the underbrush, holding their breath as enemy boots passed within mere meters. When the danger had passed, relief washed over them like a quiet tide. But there was no celebration. Time was still their enemy. The mission continued, moving from one target to the next. Each demolition was a small victory, a step closer to accomplishing what seemed impossible. Yet with each success, the risks multiplied. The enemy was becoming aware that something was amiss and reinforcements were likely being called. Harlan knew that every second counted. They had to complete their objectives and withdraw before the situation escalated beyond control. The balance between speed and precision was delicate, but every man on the team had internalized it through rigorous training. One of the most remarkable aspects of this operation was how ordinary men performed extraordinary feats. These were not superheroes. They were soldiers trained to adapt, think, and act under pressure. Harlan often reflected that in such moments, the human mind's ability to calculate risk and respond creatively could rival any technological advantage. And in this mission, it was the combination of preparation, courage, and quick thinking that allowed them to succeed. By the time the team reached the final target, fatigue was universal. Arms ached from carrying equipment, legs burned from constant movement, and minds teetered on the edge of exhaustion. Yet there was no room for hesitation. Every placement of explosives, every bypassed patrol, and every cautious step mattered. The success of the mission and the lives of countless soldiers counting on it depended on their endurance. It was a test not only of physical stamina, but of mental resilience, and every member of Harlan's team passed with distinction. As the final charges were set and detonated, the impact was immediate. Enemy supply lines collapsed, communication hubs went dark, and chaos rippled through the opposing forces. What had seemed impossible had been achieved, and yet the true challenge remained: returning safely. Harlan led his team through the final leg of their journey, navigating the terrain with the same precision and caution that had characterized every step of the mission. Each successful maneuver reinforced the lesson that preparation, skill, and courage could overcome even the most daunting obstacles. The operation, once thought to be a long shot, became a turning point. Success was measured not in headlines or medals, but in its effect on the broader campaign. Allied forces were able to exploit the disruption, gaining strategic advantages that would have been impossible without the mission. And while the men of Harlan's team remained largely anonymous, their actions echoed throughout the military hierarchy, as an example of what could be achieved through ingenuity, bravery, and meticulous planning. It's a story that reminds us that history is often shaped by small teams performing monumental acts of courage, and that heroism is not always loud or public. Sometimes, it is the quiet, calculated bravery of a few individuals that changes the course of events in ways that ripple far beyond what anyone might expect. The extraction phase of the mission was, paradoxically, the most dangerous part. While setting explosives in enemy territory demanded precision and courage, escaping without detection required a completely different kind of skill. Every step, every breath, every heartbeat could betray them. Lieutenant Colonel Harlan understood this more clearly than anyone. The mission wasn't truly complete until the team had returned safely to Allied lines. One misstep now would erase all the victories they had fought so hard to achieve. As the men moved through dense forests and across open fields, the terrain seemed almost sentient, conspiring to test their resolve. Fallen branches, hidden ravines, and mud-choked paths made their progress painstakingly slow. They had to move silently, coordinating every movement through subtle gestures and prearranged signals. It was during these moments that trust became more than a word. It was a tangible force that bound them together. Each man knew the other's skills and instincts intimately, and in this knowledge lay their best chance for survival. The enemy, of course, was not idle. Reports suggested that reinforcements were mobilizing and patrols intensified. Harlan's team had to anticipate changes in the enemy's patterns and adapt instantly. One wrong turn could place them directly in the path of heavily armed forces. In moments like these, improvisation became just as crucial as preparation. Harlan relied on his instincts, honed over years of training, and on the quiet ingenuity of his men. Together, they navigated a landscape filled with both natural and human threats, relying on a combination of stealth, courage, and precise timing. It was during one particularly tense stretch that the team faced a near-disastrous encounter. A squad of enemy soldiers appeared unexpectedly, moving in a formation that had not been predicted. The team froze, each member calculating the risk of moving versus remaining still. Harlan assessed the situation in seconds and made a decision that could have meant life or death. They would have to wait, pressed against the thick underbrush, letting the patrol pass mere meters from their hiding place. Every man held his breath, muscles locked, minds racing to suppress the natural urge to react. When the danger finally passed, a silent collective exhale confirmed their survival, but there was no time for celebration. The mission still hung in the balance. As they continued their retreat, the physical toll of the operation became increasingly evident. Blisters, cuts, and exhaustion gnawed at each soldier, yet their resolve remained unbroken. This was the crucible of war, moments where the human body reaches its limits, yet the mind and spirit push forward, refusing to surrender. The men drew strength from one another, from the knowledge that their actions could save countless lives, and from the shared understanding that failure was not an option. Each step was a testament to human endurance and determination under extreme circumstances. Harlan also understood the psychological dimension of their predicament. Fear, stress, and fatigue could cloud judgment, leading to mistakes that might be fatal. He maintained constant communication with his men, offering brief words of encouragement and subtle signals of reassurance. Leadership in such moments was not about issuing commands alone. It was about instilling confidence, fostering calm, and ensuring that even the most exhausted soldier retained the clarity of mind needed to survive. Navigating the extraction route required a combination of strategy and improvisation. Certain paths had been mapped out before the mission, but the fluid nature of war demanded constant adjustments. The team used natural cover, trees, rocks, and shadows to remain unseen. When encountering open ground, they moved quickly and decisively, minimizing exposure. Every decision was calculated, and every misstep could have catastrophic consequences. This was the fine line between life and death, and Harlan's team walked it with remarkable precision. The final stretch brought them dangerously close to enemy positions. Harlan's intelligence had indicated fewer patrols in a particular sector, but as they advanced, they discovered that the enemy had shifted their focus unexpectedly. The team was forced to improvise yet again, using terrain features to conceal their approach and employing silent coordination to avoid detection. The tension was palpable. Each man knew that the slightest error could unravel everything they had worked to achieve. Yet through skill, discipline, and courage, they moved steadily forward. As dawn approached, signaling the end of their long night, the team reached a river that marked the boundary of Allied-controlled territory. Crossing it was another test of nerve. The water was cold, the current swift, and the risk of detection high. Yet with careful timing and teamwork, they made it across, each man supporting the other as they navigated the treacherous crossing. The moment they reached the opposite bank, relief washed over them, but it was tempered by the knowledge that vigilance remained essential until they were fully safe. Finally, after hours of grueling movement, they emerged from the forest into a clearing that led to Allied lines. Exhaustion was universal, but so was a sense of quiet triumph. The mission, against all odds, had been successful. Every objective had been completed, and the team had returned with their lives intact. Harlan allowed himself a brief moment to reflect on the journey. The mission's success was not just a product of planning or equipment. It was the result of extraordinary human effort under extraordinary conditions. This story, while often overlooked in broader histories of the war, is a testament to the power of preparation, courage, and teamwork. Harlan's team demonstrated that even the most impossible missions could be accomplished through ingenuity, determination, and unyielding resolve. Their actions disrupted enemy operations, saved countless lives, and created strategic advantages that would resonate through the remainder of the conflict. But beyond the strategic impact, there is a more profound lesson. Heroism often occurs in the shadows, away from public recognition. The men of this mission did not seek fame, they sought to complete their duty. Their courage, their quick thinking, and their ability to endure unimaginable challenges remind us that history is shaped not just by grand leaders, but by individuals willing to act decisively when it matters most. Once the team returned to Allied lines, the immediate relief was undeniable, but the aftermath of their operation brought a different set of challenges. War does not allow for long celebrations, and even the most successful missions leave behind lingering consequences that must be managed. Lieutenant Colonel Harlan and his men were greeted as heroes, yet the full impact of what they had accomplished was only beginning to be understood. Intelligence officers quickly debriefed the team, extracting every detail that could help future operations. Every step of their journey, every improvisation, every close call was meticulously documented, transforming a singular act of bravery into actionable knowledge for the broader war effort. One of the most remarkable aspects of this mission was how it disrupted enemy plans. The explosives had destroyed critical infrastructure, and the enemy's supply lines were thrown into chaos. They scrambled to repair damage that could not be undone in time to counter the Allied offensive. This tactical disruption, though small in scale compared to entire battles, had disproportionate strategic value. A single operation, executed with precision and daring, had shifted the balance in ways that few outside the intelligence community would ever fully appreciate. The men themselves had changed. Many soldiers who survive extraordinary circumstances report a mix of pride, exhaustion, and subtle trauma. Harlan's team was no exception. They had witnessed the raw consequences of combat up close, enemy soldiers killed or captured, the destruction of villages, the constant tension of life-or-death decisions. These experiences left an indelible mark, yet remarkably, each man carried a sense of purpose. They had acted with intention, skill, and bravery, and the knowledge that their actions had saved countless lives became a sustaining source of strength. Harlan, in particular, understood the psychological toll. He was a natural leader, and leadership in these circumstances extended beyond tactical decisions. It required emotional stewardship. He ensured that his men received proper rest, medical attention, and counseling when necessary. Even in the midst of a relentless war, he recognized that the human element was as crucial as the strategic or logistical. This foresight helped the men recover both physically and mentally, and ensured that they would be ready for future missions that demanded the same extraordinary resilience. Meanwhile, the stories of their daring exploits began to circulate, first among military circles and later in broader historical accounts. Some accounts emphasized the technical skill involved, the meticulous planning, and the ingenuity of using limited resources to achieve significant outcomes. Others highlighted the personal courage, the camaraderie, and the extraordinary resolve of individuals willing to place themselves in extreme danger for the greater good. These narratives, though sometimes dramatized, helped cement the mission's place in history. They reminded everyone that even in a world dominated by strategy and machinery, human courage remains the decisive factor. Interestingly, the enemy's perspective provides additional insight into the mission's significance. Japanese reports indicated confusion and demoralization following the sabotage of critical supply lines. Commanders were forced to divert troops, alter strategies, and operate under a constant sense of uncertainty. The psychological impact of a successful covert mission, executed deep within enemy territory, cannot be overstated. Fear, hesitation, and mistrust spread through the ranks, influencing decisions and slowing the enemy's response. In this way, Harlan's team achieved far more than physical destruction. They imposed a psychological ripple effect that amplified the operation's impact beyond its immediate objectives. Harlan himself remained humble in recounting the events. He often deflected praise to his men, insisting that every success depended on teamwork and mutual trust. Yet historians and military analysts recognized the extraordinary skill required to lead such a mission. Harlan had to balance strategy with real-time adaptability, leadership with empathy, and courage with calculated risk. Each decision he made carried weighty consequences, yet he executed them with remarkable clarity and calm under pressure. His example would become a model for special operations leaders in decades to come. The long-term consequences of the mission also reveal the intricate interplay between individual acts and broader strategic outcomes. By delaying enemy reinforcements and disrupting supply chains, Harlan's team indirectly influenced larger battles, providing Allied forces with crucial windows of opportunity. The ripple effect demonstrates how localized actions, when executed with precision and audacity, can influence the course of entire campaigns. In studying these events, military historians emphasize that while battles are often won through numbers and resources, decisive outcomes frequently stem from bold, well-executed operations that exploit weakness and surprise. Beyond strategy and history, the human stories embedded in the mission are compelling. Soldiers described small acts of bravery that went unnoticed but were vital to survival. A man covering another during a river crossing, a soldier finding a hidden path to avoid patrols, a medic providing quiet reassurance under extreme stress. These moments illustrate that heroism is rarely a singular act of spectacle. It is often a series of small, precise, and courageous choices made consistently in the face of danger. Harlan's leadership amplified these individual acts, channeling them toward a shared objective that ultimately defined the mission's success. The mission also reinforced the importance of preparation and ingenuity. Harlan's team had limited resources, no air support, and minimal intelligence about enemy movements. Yet they leveraged every advantage available: terrain, camouflage, timing, and their own expertise. Their success demonstrated that even in overwhelmingly hostile environments, careful planning, adaptability, and courage can overcome material disadvantages. This lesson resonates across military and civilian contexts alike. Preparation and ingenuity remain decisive factors in the face of complex challenges. Finally, the mission serves as a timeless reminder of the often overlooked contributions of individuals during war. History tends to focus on battles, leaders, and political outcomes, but the lives and actions of ordinary soldiers frequently shape events in ways that history only later acknowledges. Harlan and his team exemplify this truth. Their mission was one of many small but crucial operations that collectively determined the trajectory of the conflict. Recognizing these contributions enriches our understanding of history, highlighting the role of human courage, skill, and perseverance in shaping the world. After the mission concluded and Harlan's team returned to safety, the recognition they received, though significant, was understated compared to the magnitude of their achievement. Military tradition often emphasizes collective victory over individual heroism, yet even in a framework that prioritizes unit cohesion, the contributions of extraordinary individuals cannot be ignored. Harlan himself received a commendation for leadership under extreme circumstances, though he humbly redirected attention to his men. Every soldier in the unit played a role, whether in planning, navigation, or execution, and their collective effort represented the embodiment of courage, discipline, and ingenuity under pressure. The award ceremonies, though formal, were steeped in emotion. Families of the soldiers who had risked everything were present, and the pride in the eyes of parents, siblings, and spouses was unmistakable. For many of the men, this recognition was the first time their personal sacrifices were fully appreciated. Soldiers accustomed to the constant threat of death and the rigors of combat rarely seek acknowledgement. Yet in this moment, the honor bestowed served as both validation and closure. It reminded them that their actions had lasting value, not only to the immediate military operation, but to the broader Allied war effort. In interviews conducted decades later, surviving members of the team reflected on the duality of the mission, its intense danger and its profound meaning. They described the fear that accompanied each decision, the sleepless nights navigating enemy territory, and the constant awareness that a single misstep could be fatal. Yet alongside the fear was a sense of purpose, a recognition that their actions were shaping the course of the war in tangible ways. This sense of mission provided psychological resilience, reinforcing the idea that courage is often rooted in clarity of purpose rather than absence of fear. Harlan, in particular, was frequently asked how he maintained composure under such extraordinary circumstances. His answer was simple: preparation, trust, and adaptability. Preparation meant understanding the terrain, the enemy, and their own limitations. Trust involved complete faith in the men under his command, knowing that each would act decisively when called upon. Adaptability was critical when unforeseen obstacles arose, requiring split-second decisions that could determine life or death. This combination of qualities, honed through rigorous training and battlefield experience, exemplified the qualities of a truly exceptional leader. The psychological impact of the mission extended beyond Harlan and his immediate team. Allied forces in the region benefited indirectly from the disruption the mission caused, gaining critical time and opportunities to maneuver. Commanders adjusted strategies in real time based on the intelligence gathered, while troops on the front lines experienced tangible relief as supply lines and enemy positions were compromised. The cascading effects of the operation demonstrated how a single, well-executed mission could alter the strategic landscape, emphasizing that wars are often won through calculated risks taken by individuals willing to confront overwhelming odds. One of the most compelling legacies of the mission was the enduring bond among the team members. Shared experiences of extreme danger often create relationships that last a lifetime. Harlan and his soldiers maintained correspondence for years after the war, sharing memories, discussing challenges, and celebrating milestones. These connections were rooted not only in friendship, but in an understanding that each had relied on the other for survival. The mission forged a sense of unity and loyalty that transcended ordinary camaraderie, illustrating the profound human dimension of warfare. Historians examining this mission emphasize its significance within the larger context of WWII. While grand battles and large-scale offensives dominate the historical narrative, operations like Harlan's provide critical insight into how individual initiative and specialized skill can influence the outcome of complex campaigns. By disrupting enemy logistics, the team created vulnerabilities that Allied forces could exploit, accelerating advances and reducing casualties. In this sense, the mission serves as a case study in asymmetrical impact, where a small but highly skilled group achieves results disproportionate to its size. The mission also exemplifies the principle that innovation often arises from necessity. Confronted with limited resources and formidable obstacles, Harlan and his team devised creative solutions in real time. Improvised tools, unconventional routes, and adaptive tactics were all employed to navigate hostile territory and accomplish objectives. These innovations, born out of necessity, highlight a universal truth: extraordinary circumstances often reveal latent ingenuity, and success frequently depends on the ability to adapt traditional approaches to unprecedented challenges. Beyond military strategy, the mission underscores broader lessons about courage and resilience. The soldiers' willingness to risk everything for a cause larger than themselves exemplifies values that resonate beyond the battlefield. Their story inspires reflection on personal courage, the ethics of sacrifice, and the enduring importance of teamwork. Even decades later, the mission continues to serve as a powerful example of what can be achieved when individuals confront adversity with skill, determination, and unwavering commitment. Ultimately, the mission's enduring legacy is both practical and symbolic. Practically, it demonstrated how targeted operations can yield strategic advantages in wartime. Symbolically, it highlighted the extraordinary potential of human determination and ingenuity. The story of Harlan and his team continues to inspire military professionals, historians, and civilians alike, reminding us that even in the darkest and most chaotic moments, courageous and skilled individuals can change the course of history. As the years passed, the story of Harlan and his team gradually became more widely known, not just within military circles, but among historians, educators, and the general public. Documentaries, books, and interviews brought their remarkable feat into sharper focus, offering a vivid window into the extraordinary risks they undertook. In classrooms, their mission became an example of courage, problem-solving, and teamwork under extreme pressure. Young students and aspiring military leaders alike were captivated not merely by the daring nature of the operation, but by the lessons embedded in every tactical decision, every improvisation, and every moment of bravery. Harlan's post-war life reflected the same qualities that had carried him and his men through the mission. He remained humble about his achievements, always emphasizing the collective effort rather than personal heroism. Though he received numerous awards and recognition, including national commendations and invitations to speak at military academies, he consistently directed praise toward the men who had followed him into danger. This humility further cemented his legacy as not only a skilled and innovative leader, but also a man of integrity and honor. His approach to leadership, focused on empowerment, trust, and shared responsibility, continued to influence military training programs and leadership curricula long after the war ended. One particularly striking aspect of the mission was its demonstration of adaptability in the face of unpredictable circumstances. Harlan and his team frequently encountered unexpected challenges, weather conditions, enemy patrols, and terrain obstacles that required immediate solutions. Unlike conventional operations that relied heavily on strict adherence to plans, this mission demanded constant improvisation. The ability to pivot strategies, make quick decisions, and leverage available resources became the defining factor in their success. In this sense, the mission serves as a timeless example of how flexibility and creative problem-solving are critical not only in combat but in any high-stakes situation. Veterans who studied the mission later emphasized the psychological dimensions of the operation. The constant presence of danger created an intense mental strain, yet the soldiers reported that shared purpose and trust in one another mitigated fear. This psychological resilience allowed them to maintain focus, execute complex maneuvers, and sustain their stamina despite physical exhaustion. Psychologists analyzing wartime leadership have often cited this operation as an early example of how cohesion, morale, and confidence in leadership directly influence operational outcomes. The mental fortitude displayed by Harlan and his men has become a benchmark in studies of extreme performance under pressure. The mission's impact was not limited to immediate military gains. It also contributed to a broader understanding of unconventional warfare and small unit tactics. Commanders who reviewed the operation recognized that traditional large-scale maneuvers were not always the most effective means of achieving strategic goals. By employing a small, highly trained team capable of operating independently behind enemy lines, the Allies gained a model for precision, efficiency, and asymmetrical impact. In subsequent conflicts, lessons drawn from this operation informed special forces training, reconnaissance missions, and targeted sabotage operations, demonstrating that the principles pioneered by Harlan and his team were applicable far beyond the theater of World War II. The enduring fascination with the mission also stems from the human stories intertwined with military strategy. Each soldier brought unique skills, experiences, and perspectives that shaped the outcome. Harlan's leadership, while central, was only one element of a complex equation that included teamwork, loyalty, and individual initiative. Personal accounts, letters, and diaries provide intimate glimpses into the emotional landscape of the mission, capturing moments of fear, relief, humor, and camaraderie. These human elements elevate the story from a tactical achievement to a narrative that resonates deeply with anyone who values courage, perseverance, and the triumph of the human spirit under extreme circumstances. In commemorating the mission, museums and memorials often highlight both the strategic importance and the human dimension. Artifacts, maps, and photographs allow visitors to trace the team's journey, visualizing the incredible risks and obstacles they faced. Exhibits often juxtapose technical details with personal narratives, emphasizing that the operation's success was as much about human ingenuity and bravery as it was about logistics or weaponry. This dual focus reinforces the idea that history is shaped not only by plans and strategies, but by the people who execute them with skill, determination, and unwavering commitment. The story also reminds us that history is often written in layers. While grand battles and major political decisions dominate headlines and textbooks, the contributions of individuals and small teams frequently have ripple effects that shape outcomes in ways that are not immediately visible. Harlan's mission exemplifies this principle. A single operation, executed with precision and courage, created strategic advantages that extended far beyond its immediate context. By examining such missions, we gain a fuller understanding of the intricate interplay between individual action, unit cohesion, and broader historical events. Perhaps the most inspiring lesson is that ordinary individuals can accomplish extraordinary feats when equipped with knowledge, preparation, and resolve. Harlan and his team were soldiers, yes, but they were also problem solvers, innovators, and humans confronting fear with determination. Their story encourages reflection on the capacity within each of us to rise to challenges, confront adversity, and make meaningful contributions in our own spheres of life. While the context was war, the principles of courage, resilience, and ingenuity transcend time, geography, and circumstance. As we conclude the story of the mission that seemed impossible, but succeeded against all odds, it's worth remembering that history is not merely a record of events. It is a collection of human experiences that continue to inspire and teach. Harlan's team demonstrated that success often depends on the willingness to take calculated risks, the ability to adapt under pressure, and the trust forged between individuals who share a common goal. Their achievement remains a testament to what is possible when skill, courage, and determination intersect in the face of overwhelming challenges. In the end, the mission stands as a beacon of hope, a story of triumph under the dire circumstances, and a reminder that the impact of individual and collective courage can ripple through history. Harlan and his team may have returned home quietly, but their legacy endures, continuing to inspire generations of soldiers, leaders, and everyday citizens alike. Their story teaches us that even in situations that appear insurmountable, careful planning, trust, ingenuity, and relentless determination can lead to outcomes that defy expectations. If Harlan's mission inspired you, take a moment to honor the courage and ingenuity of the men who risked everything to make the impossible possible. Hit that like button to show respect for these heroes, subscribe to join our community of history lovers, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another story of bravery and triumph from the pages of history. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that courage and determination can change the course of history, and leave a comment below telling us which part of this mission amazed you the most. Every story deserves to be remembered, and together, we keep history alive.